Are your hamstrings still tight even though you stretch them out every day? We'll take a look at this video and I'll tell you exactly why. Hey, this is Dr. David Song at the Rehab Hero Clinic, and today I'll be telling you a few different ways of how to get your hamstring to loosen up. So one of the things that most people will tell you that your hamstrings are feeling tight is because the muscle is in itself tight. And while this can be true for some people, it's not true all the time. There are a few different other factors that can be playing a role into why your hamstrings are feeling tight, in particular when you're trying to touch your toes, or maybe when you're just bending over, trying to tie your shoelaces, or any really movements of daily life. We're going to be here today to figure out what you can do to get your hamstrings to loosen up. But before we get started with our exercises, I first want to go over why your hamstrings might be tight and a few different reasons why this might be going on. So the first one is, like I said, everyone knows about hamstrings just being limited in terms of range of motion. This could be the muscle being tight in itself, in which case doing something like stretches can help with that. But another thing that might be going on is you might actually have a muscle contracture, which is actually when the muscle can't relax and it's just undergoing an involuntary contraction. Another reason that people don't really think about is that some of that tension can be coming from your sciatic nerve. And I'm not saying that you have to have sciatica. I'm not saying that you have an active disc bulge or disc herniation causing symptoms down the leg. But if you don't have a lot of nerve mobility, it can lead to feeling sensations of tension, especially in the calf and hamstring region. So we'll be going over some exercises for that. The last reason is a little bit more uncommon, but it can still be affecting a small population of people. And this can be due to a movement dysfunction. In particular, it can be related to movement related instability or dynamic instability in the lumbar spine or the lumbopelvic region. And this is just when the hamstrings take over the role of stabilizing your posterior chain. So we're going to give you another option of how to train up some other muscles to do that role so that the hamstrings can be spared when you do something like bend over. Before we get started with these exercises, I just want to remind you that you don't have to do all of these exercises. What you're going to do is just going to test and retest to see how much your hamstrings have improved in terms of how much tension they feel when you try to bend over and stretch them out. Basically, if you find that a certain set of exercises causes you to respond significantly, then that's the exercise that you gotta stick to. If you do an exercise and you don't really notice any significant improvement, then you could just skip that exercise moving forwards. Through this trial and error process, you'll figure out exactly what you need to do to get your hamstring to loosen up. So let's get started. The first exercise that we're going to be doing, we're going to be using something like an exercise bench, or if you have a chair at home or a sofa, you can use anything. It just needs to be stable enough to prop your leg up. So we're going to be doing an exercise to stretch out your hamstrings muscle. And this is again, just to address the muscle tension issue. So all you got to do is place your leg up on that elevated surface, and you can keep your toes pointed upwards, or you could rotate it out or inwards. It really just depends on where you feel the most tension. From here, you want to keep your spine neutral, or as neutral as possible. You're gonna be hinging at the hips, okay? So what we're doing is we're just trying to get the pelvis to rotate a little bit here, and this is going to stretch out the hamstrings muscle. So you can see that even though I haven't really hinged very far forwards, I'm gonna feel stretch. Now we're going to be doing a PNF variation of this exercise, which is short for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. And basically it just helps to kind of train that muscle up to be more comfortable in a stretched or a lengthened position. So once you feel that light stretch, and I usually like to quantify that as like a 2 out of 10 or less tension sensation, I'm going to hold that for about 7 to 10 seconds. After about 7 to 10 seconds, I'm going to take my heel, I'm going to drive it down into the bench. So I'm pretty much, if this bench was here, I'm trying to drive my heel downwards through the bench. But because the bench is blocking me and it's nice and stable, you're not really going to see me move. All you're going to feel is your muscle contract here. And you're going to hold that contraction for 5 seconds, and you're going to go for maximal tolerable contraction, so it should be pain-free. And then after about 5 seconds, you're going to relax everything once again. Now what you'll notice is that once you actually got that muscle to relax, the same hip hinge angle will feel a lot more comfortable on that hamstrings muscle. So once you've achieved that, you're just going to hinge maybe about 5 degrees further. So it's a very slight hinge, and you're going to feel that stretch intensity go back up to that 2 to 3 out of 10. Hold it for about 7 seconds, and then you're going to repeat the process until you get to the desired effect. So I'm going to push down once again for 5 seconds here. And as I'm doing that, I'm concentrating on that hamstrings contraction, and then I'm going to relax. and then I'm going to be able to go a little bit further. Eventually, you'll be able to hinge far enough where you could touch your toes without having to bend through the spine. And it's fine to bend through the spine. I'm just trying to help you learn how to isolate it to your hamstrings muscle and not your general posterior chain. It'll take about on average 5 to 7 repetitions on average for you to reach full range of motion. It can vary from person to person. Sometimes you need to do another 3, sometimes it's 3 less. But if you find that by the 10th to 12th repetition, you're really not able to achieve it, or you really just didn't make any gains in your mobility, then you could just go on to the next exercise. On that note, let's take a look. This next exercise is for a muscle contracture, which is again an involuntary contraction of your muscle. So what we're going to do is take advantage of using a massage ball. You could use a tennis ball at home instead if you don't have a massage ball, or a lacrosse ball works really well as well. We're going to be using this massage ball to help to trigger a relaxation response from the muscle. A compression of a muscle through movement can sometimes cause a muscle to relax in response to the pressure that's being applied. So we're going to take advantage of that principle and show you how to massage out your hamstring and we're going to see if this actually helps you to reduce your hamstring tension. So I'm going to take this massage ball and I'm going to place it anywhere along my hamstring's muscle belly. Now, you have to realize your hamstring muscle is pretty big, and so you don't want to necessarily take this ball and put it right in the middle of the muscle. It will be actually targeting somewhat to the side or somewhat towards the inside of that muscle belly. It's almost like 2 columns of muscles right here, okay? So from here, I'm going to just show you what it looks like if I'm taking a look at my lateral lines, my biceps femoris muscle, and I'll be just placing my thigh on it, and I'm going to sit on it like this. So this exercise will require something like a chair. From here, I can lean forward to apply more pressure just to distribute more weight onto that pressure point. You're going to go for a maximum of a 5 to 6 out of 10 intensity. When you're doing this exercise, going above that really can cause you to do more harm than good. You might end up bruising the muscle, and we want to just get it to relax. We're not trying to pummel the muscle, okay? So once you have applied that pressure and you get that 5 to 6 out of 10 intensity, we're going to do a nice slow tempoed knee extension movement. And what this does is it gets the hamstring to stretch under that applied pressure. So I'm gonna feel that hamstring muscle massage intensify a bit, and then I'm going to come back down. And we're going to do anywhere between 5 to 6 of these knee extensions per spot. And after I do about 5 to 6 of these, I'm going to go find another spot, maybe 1 inch downwards, 2 inches downwards. You're just going to go by feel on where you might find a tender spot, and you're going to repeat. And then you're going to do this for your medial column to target your semitendinosus, semimembranosus. So now I'm going to go more so towards the inside of my hamstring, and I'll do the same thing. So in total, you might find anywhere between 4 to 6 spots along the lateral hamstring and 4 to 6 spots along the medial hamstring. Sometimes it's even less of that. Like as you make improvements in your muscle's condition, you'll find that it'll be harder and harder to find a tender spot, which is like honestly a good sign. So you don't want to have to feel a lot of tenderness all the way through. Like for me, I don't feel much at all with this exercise. And then I'm going to go another spot and do another 4 to 6 repetitions. Now, when it comes to doing this exercise, you really want to limit it to just before the physical activity that you're going to be engaging in, or you're going to limit it to every other day, whichever one is the least often. So what this means is that you don't want to be massaging out this muscle every single day. You do need to give that hamstring muscle a rest from self-massage because it responds to recovery in the very same way as working out. So you do need that 48-hour recovery period. So following this, you'll do your other hamstring as well, and then you'll retest trying to touch your toes to see how your hamstrings feel, how your calves feel, and if your range of motion actually increased with you trying to touch your toes. All right, so let's go to the next exercise. All right, so next we're going to do 2 exercise variations to address sciatic nerve tension that might be causing your tight hamstrings or your tight calf muscles. The first thing you're going to do is you're just going to kind of crouch down so that you're bending your knees and hips. And from here, you're just going to use your hands to contact and pinch your feet. So this is just going to be a point of contact to introduce a little bit more stability to the movement. So I don't need to pinch my toes a lot. I'm just using my hands to kind of grip onto my feet. From here, I'm going to just slowly extend my knees as far as I can until I feel a stretch in my hamstrings. From there, I'm just going to come back down. And what we're essentially doing is we're just flossing that sciatic nerve through your posterior chain. So I'm just going to go, and as you do more repetitions, you should find that you could go a little bit deeper and deeper into the movement.
And it can take anywhere between 10 to 20 repetitions to get to that full range of motion. So eventually you'll be able to go until your knees fully lock out towards that 20th repetition.
All right, so for this next exercise, it's gonna be a variation of what we call the elephant walk. So exercise is really good if you don't have the ankle mobility to do the progressive toe touches that we just did. So instead of crouching down all the way, because that requires a lot of ankle dorsiflexion, you're just going to bend with your knees bent until you can touch your toes. From here, you're going to keep one heel off the floor. And when you raise that heel, you're gonna be trying to extend that opposite knee. So I'm gonna go on a 45 here so you could see what I'm talking about. So as I extend one leg, I'm going to raise the heel of the other. And then I'm going to alternate sides kind of as soon as I reach that motion. Now it's completely okay that you don't log out that knee completely straight in the beginning because you don't necessarily have that sciatic nerve mobility yet. So what you should notice though is that as you kind of progress through this exercise, that slowly, like if I had a slight bend in my knee, it'll be less sensitive to that position and I can straighten it out a little bit more each time. And so even if you reach that full lockout position, you still want to do up to 20 repetitions of this exercise because it's just flossing that sciatic nerve through that posterior chain. And what you'll notice is that compared to the first repetition that you're able to lock out that knee to the 20th repetition that you're doing, that at the 20th repetition, you'll feel a lot less tension going through that chain of muscles or along that sciatic nerve. And then from there, once again, you'll just retest to see how it feels to touch your toes. And as you touch your toes, you should notice that you don't feel as much tension going through there. So this exercise, similar to our first, the PNF stretching exercise, can be done daily. In fact, these exercises can be done multiple times per day, and you're just going to be aiming anywhere between 10 to 20 repetitions. Now, it's really important to note that these exercises are done completely pain-free. These exercises are not made for you to do when you are in pain. If you are in pain, I highly recommend that you go see your healthcare practitioner to first get assessed so that you can see your physiotherapist or your chiropractor to see what might be causing your pain. This exercise series is just for when you're pain-free and you just want to gain some more mobility through that hamstrings. We're going to be going over our final set of exercises, which is for movement dysfunctions. Let's take a look. All right, so this exercise is for issues relating to the hamstrings being overly active to stabilize your posterior chain while you're doing movements like bending over or anything that really requires hamstring mobility. I can go over this topic in more detail in another video because it can get pretty complex. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. But until then, we're going to do this exercise and use it as a solution to reduce your hamstring tension. So what we're going to do is instead of using our hamstrings to stabilize our posterior chain, we're going to stimulate using our hip adductors, our inner thigh muscles instead. Theoretically, this will spare your hamstrings muscles from contracting hard to stabilize your posterior chain and therefore freeing them up to be stretched out for movement, okay? This is the last exercise in our series for a reason because this is the least common reason to occur. The other three reasons are much more common. So this is here. So the first three set of exercises really didn't do anything to improve your symptoms as in like decrease tension or increase your range of motion, then this might just be it for you. So you're going to need something like a yoga block, or if you don't have a yoga block, you can use a rolled up towel or a foam roller if you have that at home. You just need something about 6 inches thick to place between your knees. And so I'm just gonna put that right between my knees here. And once it's there, I'm going to use my thigh muscles to squeeze it as hard as I can. So now I'm just going to take my thighs, I'm gonna squeeze it inwards. And I'm doing that almost as if I'm trying to crush this yoga block. I'm going to make sure that my knees are locked out during this exercise, and all I'm going to do is while maintaining that squeeze, I'm just going to bend over to try to touch my toes. So I'm going to bend over as far as I can, and I'm going to reach as far forwards as I can. I'm going to make sure I'm not letting up on my pressure on this yoga block, and I'm going to hold this stretch for about 5 seconds, squeezing my thighs together as hard as I can. After that, I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to do up to 10 repetitions here. Even if you can touch your toes, if you feel hamstrings tension normally, you might find that doing this exercise can remove the tension so you could just touch your toes comfortably. For me, I can touch my toes comfortably, but I can't necessarily touch the ground comfortably. So we're going to try to actually do this for me to see how far I can get. So before I go and get to basically here, so I'm gonna go a little further here and kind of reach with my knuckles, my furthest knuckles, hold that for about 5 seconds, come back up, take a quick break, squeeze again, super hard. I'm gonna try to get my middle knuckles to touch the floor, and I happen to reach it this time, squeezing, 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 coming back up. And then I'm going to just
Now progressively try to see if I could get my first knuckles to touch, and just barely. It's high effort for me. As you can tell from me holding my breath. Squeeze again, see if this next one is a little bit better. Yes, it is. I can touch those knuckles to the floor easily. Back up. And I'm gonna do a few more. Technically, you can keep going until you palm the ground with your hands. So I'm gonna see if I can get there now. Nope, just fingertips. Okay. And I'm gonna go again, squeezing super hard. I'm gonna see if I can touch the floor. A little bit better, a little bit better. I'm just gonna go for one more repetition for the sake of this video. Squeezing my hip adductors as much as I can. And I didn't quite get my palms fully on the floor there, but as you probably saw, I made some pretty significant changes. Now, if I just try to retest my mobility without the yoga block, I'm just gonna see how far forwards I can touch. And just effortlessly, now I can get pretty close, a lot closer than I did before. So this exercise, you'll once again do this daily. Just one set's usually enough. You can do 2 sets if you really want to at 2 separate times in the day. Basically, you can do anywhere between 10 to 20 repetitions. Just make sure you're warmed up before you get started. Stretching when you're cold is really a terrible feeling, and it could actually not feel great the next day if you try to stretch while you're cold. So make sure you're either warmed up, you're up and around doing something, or you just took a hot shower, something that just warms up your tissues. When it comes to increasing your baseline mobility, which means like your ability to stretch out your hamstrings without feeling tension before you warm up or do any exercises, it can take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks for you to notice significant changes. That's not to say that week to week or day by day you won't notice big changes. Sometimes you will, especially if you nailed it on the head with your specific issue. Now, sometimes some people have a combination of limitations. Some people will have to do all 4 types of exercises, although those types of cases are pretty rare. Usually it's just 1 or 2 variations of different exercises that you might have to do. If this exercise video really helped you to loosen up your hamstrings, please let me know in the comments below. I want to know which set of exercises worked for you so we can let the community know which ones that they can benefit from. If you want to see more exercise videos like this one today, please let me know. If you're dealing with issues and you happen to be in the Toronto or Markham region, you can book in with a Rehab Hero clinician. We have 2 clinics in the GTA region. You can find the link to book in the caption below. If you really like this video, please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.